What is your address, sir?
Less than 10 hours later, between 2 and 3 a.m., Bert would die a painful death at the hands of this man, the defendant, who committed reckless murder.
At this point, it was a 50-50 shot that he was either angry or just didn't know what he was doing.
Okay. And then what happened next?
He attempted to leave with the drink, and then I told him that he couldn't leave with the drink. And then he asked me, or he said, "Do you want me to slap your face?"
My opinion is that at the time of the shooting death of Mr. Piolo, that Mark Torre was suffering from alcohol induced blackout.
Having no ill will against that brother right there.
Did this come as a surprise for you? Thanks, mate.
How did he get shot? Did he do it to himself?
It's a case that had the eyes of many on Guam and on the local police department. It was one summer night in 2015. The lives of two GPD officers, well respected in the community and on the force, would change forever. Half a day, I'm Nick Delgado. Sentencing is set for ex-cop Mark Torre Jr., convicted of negligent homicide in the shooting of his fellow officer Bert Piolo. Throughout our television special, we will revisit the bars both went to that night, the intense moments in the courtroom, and the crime scene where Piolo spent some of his final moments before he died. This is 1046. Officer down. A chaotic scene going on for hours. Investigators blocking off the road to this Jigo home on the morning of July 13th, 2015. Multiple police cars and officers swarmed Chalan Tomas Anday Street.
You can confirm that the Torre family lives in that home?
Yes.
The father and son?
I believe so.
Did you notice anything last night?
No, nothing at all.
Neighbors waking up to the heavy police presence. Authorities then initially launched a death investigation after confirming the deadly shooting involved one of their own. An officer we would later learn was Officer Piolo. The next day, the police community is shaken. A caravan of unmarked law enforcement cars are seen leaving the Hagana precinct. A security measure police say was taken as Torre Jr. is placed under arrest and charged for the murder of Officer Piolo. Investigators had been given the difficult task of taking photos and gathering evidence of the bloody crime scene. However, this time it's a shooting involving two of their brothers in blue. Court documents offer details of the trauma both officers endured that night.
The department right now is shocked, and those who are closest to it, that are dealing with the frustration, the anxiety, etc., will need counseling.
Pastor Louis Torres, a member of the Guam Police Chaplains, spoke with us the day after the shooting. No doubt he agrees the department needed time to heal.
There's no question that any time that something as horrible as this is happens to a police department, everybody's affected. One of the things that's important for the officers is to try to bring comfort to them. So in death, the only comfort you could bring is faith. A person with faith has a better ability to cope with these kind of situations than a person without faith.
2 days after the shooting, Torre Jr. has his day in court. Court documents state it was just after 2 a.m. Monday when Piolo called for help. In 911 recordings, Piolo was heard moaning and in pain, saying he was shot in the chest and bleeding out and to hurry. The phone disconnects once Piolo tells the dispatcher he's with Torre. A second call is made. Documents quote Torre saying, "He's very feisty, ma'am. He's very feisty," as he tried to stop Piolo from bleeding out. Torre Sr. then takes the phone and tells the dispatcher where to send help. Piolo was rushed to the hospital but didn't survive. By 3:22 a.m., he was pronounced dead. Torre Jr. is released after his family posted a property bond for $165,000, the property owned by his grandmother. He was placed under house arrest, ordered zero contact with other police officers, including his father, a police lieutenant.
You know, really, I was really upset with them lowering the bail with all the evidence at hand. He too had a reputation. He too was in SWAT, you know, and I feel just because his presence wasn't there, I don't feel as if he was defended properly because he wasn't in the room.
Those closest to Piolo are outraged. Longtime friend Greg Lizama understandably devastated by his sudden passing just days after the shooting. Lizama, along with family and close friends, came together at the ITC intersection in this peace rally, a personal movement many would become familiar with as each sought justice for Bert.
We're here today in hopes to enlighten people that we need justice for our friend. He was a good person, a good-hearted man, very kind to everybody, very humble. Had his whole life ahead of him.
On July 25th, the end of watch is called for badge number 157. Sergeant Albert Piolo's family, friends, and others in the community just wanting to pay their respects packed the Santa Barbara Church in Dedito, a moment hard to bear. Tears and sorrow fill the air before Piolo is escorted to Our Lady of Peace Memorial Gardens in Windward Hills. That following week, all eyes looking back on Torre Jr., July 29th, a crowded courtroom as Torre appeared before Magistrate Judge Alberto Tolentino. Torre Jr. pleaded not guilty to murder, manslaughter, and aggravated assault charges. The deadly shooting not only left the police department at odds, but the families and close friends of Torre and Piolo torn as well. It's here that we learned Torre took his first few drinks, this all starting in the afternoon before he winded up going out to at least 2 bars in Tumon, and before he and Piolo somehow ended parked back here that early morning when the gun went off. Marky, as those close to him call, was also held under house arrest in this neighborhood and waits here to this day until his sentencing. His third-party custodian includes his grandmother and mother, along with his wife Julia. Still to come, police homicide investigation involving their own turns up more evidence against the accused, and it's a case of mistaken identity. Torre's pretrial release conditions nearly revoked, and he was nearly put back behind bars. That and more when we return. You're watching 1046 Officer Down, right here on KUAM. A blackout. It's here at the abandoned ship in Tumon that both Torre and Piolo were last seen out in public. The pair spotted at times walking inside and outside of the bar. They even took photos with others enjoying the night out. However, witnesses recall seeing Torre out of character, animated, and even agitated at times. Though clearly caught on the building's security video, Torre says he doesn't remember ever stepping a foot inside here that night, moments before the unexpected occurred. These details that would slowly unfold down the path towards Torre's murder trial. On August 10th, nearly 1 month after the deadly shooting, Torre Jr. resigned from the KUAM Police Department. Still under house arrest, majority of the only other times the former SWAT officer was seen out in public was when he went to court. Torre early on was nearly thrown back in prison after a man who bears a strong resemblance was spotted out and about. The Attorney General's office then called for the court to revoke Torre's pretrial release conditions, but that quickly changed. Torre's wife and that lookalike reported the mix-up to authorities. The Attorney General's office then withdrew its motion. Meanwhile, the Justice for Bert rallies pressed on, many lining the sidewalk of this busy Tamuning intersection, gathering to ensure what happens next is done right in Piolo's honor. Days later, Mark Torre Jr. appeared in court with his attorney Jay Arreola. Here is where Arreola begins making the argument whether or not to allow video or still photography during Torre's proceedings.
First of all, the defense has not been given any notice as required by the rules for the application and or the approval of the orders. I believe there are 2 orders that have been approved. The rules only permit 1 camera, 1 video camera, and 1 still camera. I'm looking at 3 video cameras in action at this time. We'd ask the court to suspend that pending our standing objection and the motion to be filed to permanently bar cameras from the courtroom.
About a month would pass, Superior Court Judge Michael Bordallo denying bail modification that would have allowed Torre Jr. to be reunited with his father. Bordallo also denied the defense's motion to ban cameras after the defense argued it would interfere with his rights to a fair trial. Bordallo stating that's a risk that happens in every case. Chief Prosecutor Phil Tydinko on the ruling.
The reason why we have those court rules is that the judiciary in the country recognizes that it's important that a public trial requires, the fourth estate, that is the media, which is also sort of a safeguard and a watchdog over not only over the process, but it also safeguards the rights of the defendant. But I understand the defendant's position. They're trying to ensure that there's no prejudicial pretrial publicity.
The case went quiet in the public eye for a couple of months until the day before Christmas, when the judge allowed Torre Jr. to be reunited with his father, despite the prosecution objecting, arguing that Lieutenant Torre is a material witness in the case. The timing and decision left Piolo's family and friends in shock.
Just imagine if this was your family and you received news right before Christmas that the murderer, or would be murderer of your son, was allowed to see one of the key witnesses in the case.
A new year and 6 months after Piolo's death,
People God, we know why we're doing this, because we want justice for my brother.
Piolo's brother Edison says the family remains angry with the judge's recent ruling.
I'm concerned. Yes, I'm concerned with we're not going to get the fair trial. Nobody's above the law. Nobody.
Back in court, a suppression hearing was held to determine whether the police body camera footage would be shown at trial. The defense filed a motion against it on grounds that Torre was never read his Miranda rights, nor did GPD have any rules or regulations regarding the use of body cameras. The video was played in court, but the public was not allowed to see it just yet. In March of 2016, Judge Michael Bordallo decided the body cam footage will hold up in court. He denied the defense's request to suppress the evidence.
I think that's a good thing. So we're just waiting for the trial to come up, and hope that everything will goes well, and keep praying. God is on our side, and keep the faith. That's the most powerful thing we can have.
A month later, the public first learns that Torre may be claiming self-defense. Post-traumatic stress is also on the table in Torre's defense.
It's been a year and, the family is still hurting.
The first anniversary for Piolo's death hits and trial has yet to begin. Bert's mother clearly continued to grieve the loss of her oldest son.
I want the people of Guam to know that we're still grieving because of this case that they just keep pushing back, and we think the family thinks that they don't value the life of my son. And what about if they were in our position right now? How do they feel?
A tribute motorcade was held that day, starting in Dedida, Piolo's hometown, all the way to Our Lady of Peace in Windward Hills, where he's been laid to rest. For the remainder of 2016, court hearings continued as motions were made, and the discussion went on regarding key witnesses and evidence in the case. Those witnesses would also talk about Torre and Piolo's time here at Abandoned Ship and detail how the investigation included driving the same route from this bar up towards Torre's Jigo home. The case now set to go to trial in late January 2017. But coming up, we first share a little bit about these two in the years before the tragedy struck. Next, when KUAM's 1046 Officer Down returns. The Beach Bar, one of the many places investigators spent their time while looking into this officer-involved shooting. Torre Jr. and Piolo were seen here as well that night. Torre, who is known to have followed in his father's footsteps, serving on GPD's SWAT. The father and husband was also an officer in the Guam Army National Guard. It's during trial we learn more about Torre Jr.'s upbringing, but let's shift things a bit to the happenings here at this very location, the same place you could catch Bert doing what he loved to do. As KUAM's producer and host of In the Mix, Jonah Concharfers, puts it, he was a husband, a father, a son, a brother, friend, police officer, musician, and more. Here's Jones' tribute done just days after the shooting that shows us a man who spreads good vibes through his music.
I am just one of many grieving my friend Bert Piolo. I had hoped that in doing this piece, it would help with the healing process, but it did so much more. It opened my eyes to just how much Bertie was loved, especially in the music community. For Xiaobe Pangilinan, he got news of Bert's passing while in California. He recalls when he first met Bert in the summer of 2012. It was while playing for Soul Vibes.
He didn't know who I was because he was like freaking out, oh, who's this new kid, right? And then, he went up to me, hey man, my name is Bert, bro. Dude, solid jamming, bro. I was like, oh man, no way, man. I don't know the song. He said, no, but just, you're doing a great job, man. It sounds good, and then when I would play with Bert, we're always just looking at each other, when I'm playing, and he's doing his thing, We're always laughing, having a good time, you know what I mean?
According to Pangilinan, when he didn't have transportation for gigs, it was Bert to the rescue.
Bert would literally pick me up from my house with the drums and drive me to the gig. And we were gigging 3 times a week.
Sean Wolford says a gig opportunity was how he met Bert. He had called Wolford up asking if he could drum for Soul Vibes.
I drummed for them for 1 gig, then after that, he just kept calling me. And we kind of connected, and I told him about my band, and of course he's heard of Stay Tuned, so every chance he got to come and see us, he would make it out to our gigs.
Bertie was not your typical musician, meaning he played simply to play and was always eager to improve.
He's one of the few guys I've known, does not want the money. He wants to play, have a great time, and play music. That's Bert.
Dennis Nakamoto, former lead singer of Soul Vibes, agrees.
He was a positive role model for what us professional musicians should be like. It wasn't a job to him. It was a love.
Former drummer for Soul Vibes, Brad Drake.
Just his eagerness and determination to learn, he was always that guy that left his glass half full. There was always room to learn.
Drake first met Bertie back in 2010 and says he has learned a lot from his friend.
He kind of made me see things in the music world in a fresh perspective again, from when I was green in the ears, when I first started, that's how it was for me, and it kind of brought me back to that love of it.
Last Sunday, the remaining members of Soul Vibes took the stage, and for those who were present, it was an emotional moment.
Unfortunately, some unfortunate events happened for our friend Bertie. If you guys feel like coming up and cheers his wine, you're more than welcome.
On Saturday, family, friends, and those blessed to have met him will bid adios. With many still having difficulty accepting he's gone, many reflect on what they've learned from Bert.
The one thing that I can say that I learned from Bert, a lot of times, I know I'm still young, but a lot of times we forget it's about the music. And playing with Bert always reminded me it was about the music. Because Bert said, because I think they held down Beach Bar for almost three and a half years, right? And Bert said, man, Par, this is my what do you call that? My getaway, playing music. And I learned that from him, No matter if the gig was slow, not even anybody showed up, whether it rained or we just had a bad day, that gig was like, it was a Sunday, it's supposed to be enjoyable, the sun setting, Perfect place to be at the beach, have a few drinks, meet friends, and have a good time.
Wolford, who left to Washington, holds on to the memory of the last conversation he had with them.
We had a good 10-minute conversation. He's like, are you sure you want to leave Guam? Is this what you want to do? Because he goes, I've known you playing music everywhere here on Guam, and aren't you going to miss it? People are going to miss you. Are you sure this is what you want to do? And he said, just be careful out there and, call me and if you need anything, and, I love you. And that was it.
We lost a good brother. And we want to celebrate what he's done for us.
And speaking of Good Vibes Guam was a brand that Bertie had started earlier this year, stating that it was about that feeling you get, doing what you enjoy the most, such as playing your favorite instrument, singing and laughing, hanging out with your friends, and sharing memories. It was a brand that truly represented who Bertie was.
He wouldn't want us to cry. He wouldn't want us to be sad. You know, he would want us to do what we gotta do, you know, move forward, and, you know, really just he would probably just say, dude, I just hope people remember me.
January 2017, more than a year and a half had passed since the shooting. Torre Jr. heads back to court, this time for his trial. Roughly 300 potential jurors and the witness list set at over 100 people, but whittled down before day one of trial began. Emotional moments on day one of the murder trial. Opening statements are made. Bert's widow, Mika, recalls the time she shared the bad news with her in-laws.
Then they called me and I told them that I'm on the way to the hospital because Bert's gone.
Witnesses at abandoned ship that night take the stand.
I would say initially when they were there, they were having a good time, but towards the end of it, I know there was altercations with the staff.
Sized them up from head to toe. Maybe 3 times. He just kept them, you know, up and down, and I was like, "What's going on here?"
Throughout the evening, you didn't see them fighting, arguing.
No.
As a matter of fact, as you were leaving and you saw them leaving, they're stumbling and helping each other out.
Yes, that's what I recall.
I'm noticing all the blood. I'm noticing it was just a chaotic scene.
GPD officer John Edwards was wearing the police body camera that recorded this footage.
Get tight. Get tight. Get tight.
I can't breathe. Those are some of the last words Officer Piolo said before being rushed to the hospital where he later died.
I was just trying to be there for the situation I rolled up on Officer Piolo and Officer Torre, and I was just trying to comfort Mark. I mean, he's obviously distraught.
Having no ill will against that brother right there.
At the scene, talks of Piolo's extramarital affairs.
She was unstable.
Okay, he shows up there, he's unstable. What happened with him, do you know? Did he have a falling out with someone? Girlfriend, right?
It was some kind of girlfriend.
Okay, some kind of girlfriend. He comes over here for you, okay? And then he just cracks. So what? What happened?
Torre got it killed me. It tripped me out.
Because you tried to stop.
I told him to stop, and he just let it loose.
Is there a struggle between you and him?
No.
Get it away?
Not even.
The following day, gruesome images are shown to the jury. Responding officer Barry Flores takes the stand. The prosecution questioned his handling of the case as he's related to the Torre family.
It was handled the same way as I would any other investigation.
Okay, so there was no special favors done because this was your police commander or your relative?
None in my book, sir.
Torre Jr.'s mom, Deanna, and other officers later testified.
I just saw Marky holding him, so I thought maybe he couldn't stand up, or he obviously appeared as if he was helping him.
We got a call that one of ours was involved in a shooting.
Do you know Officer Mark Torre?
Yes, sir.
How do you know Officer Mark Torre?
Only Torre's gun was found at the crime scene on the dash of Piolo's truck. Investigators had dusted it for prints.
I compared it to Mark Torre Jr.
Okay, and what were your results of those 4 Lakeland prints of value?
Those negative results.
And his father, Lieutenant Torre, also taking the stand.
At that moment, I had to make a distinction of whether or not I was going to be father or police officer. I can't be both. So at that moment, I decided to be his father. Bert, he kept saying, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. And I told him he's not gonna die.
Then the medical examiner testifies as he ruled Piolo's death a homicide.
I thought he was sitting. And did you assume then that the shooter was in the passenger seat?
Yes, sir.
Heartbreaking moments for the Piolo family the day the 911 call is played. Piolo clearly heard in intense pain.
What is your address, sir? One more
The defense even showing photos of this reenactment at the Torre home, arguing it is entirely possible that the gun went off in this manner. Then the defense calls on its witness to debunk the autopsy report.
What is your opinion of his classification of the manner of death as homicide?
I disagree with it.
And why do you disagree with that?
Well, the determination was made 3 days after the death of Mr. Piolo. Clearly, not much of the evidence that we have before us today is available then. I would have absolutely, based on the close proximity, the dynamic interaction between Mr. Torre and Mr. Piolo, I would have absolutely required that evidence be available to me prior to me making that manner of death determination.
And when Torre Jr. finally takes the stand,
So Mark, what happened that night at your house?
The best I can recall, and from evidence, discovery, my feelings, Bertie tried to take his life. I tried to stop it. He shot himself.
Did you intentionally shoot him?
No, sir.
Did you recklessly shoot him?
No, sir.
Did you ever point the gun at him?
No, sir.
the entire night Torre admits he had been drinking and at some point blacked out.
My next memory is I hear a loud boom and I feel a concussion, as if a gun or a bomb, just a loud boom. And at that moment, it's like a flash where your eyes are open and I'm standing by the driver's side. And there's a side of a person partially on the driver's seat area where it's just blood coming out. I was just trying to help a brother.
Once both sides rest, closing arguments are made before the jury begins deliberations. But before that, the prosecution first has Officer Piolo's wife, Mika, speak about a family photo.
Of my husband and our kids.
Who are the children there?
Jaden, Zaven, Alana, and Isaias.
In all, 17 days of trial.
Could it be convenient to have alcohol-induced blackout when, oh crap, I'm in trouble? All police are at my house. My gun killed. I killed Bert. That could be going through his head.
It's simply not a crime to try to stop a person from committing suicide.
3 days of deliberations and the verdict is in. Mark Torre Jr. showing no emotion at first.
We, the jury, find that the defendant, Mark Anthony Torre Jr., not guilty of the offense of murder as a third-degree felony.
And when the guilty verdict is read,
We, the jury, find the defendant, Mark Torre Jr., guilty of the offense of negligent homicide as a third-degree felony.
did this come as a surprise for you? Thanks, Nate.
I lost my brother, and what do? You walk away. That's like a slap on the wrist.
We were not happy for this outcome of the verdict. We're really hoping for a murder and manslaughter because it's really hurting us. It's really hurting us. And we expect that he could go to jail for a lifetime.
Torre Jr. is found guilty of negligent homicide, aggravated assault as a third-degree felony, plus the special allegations of possession and use of a deadly weapon in the commission of a felony. This means Torre has been acquitted of murder, manslaughter, and aggravated assault in the second degree. He's facing a max of up to 28 years in prison Defense has since motioned to have him acquitted. Piolo's wife is also seeking $1.8 million in restitution. This week, KUAM will bring you the outcome Torre's sentencing set for this Wednesday. For KUAM News, Guahusinik Delgado.